Hi friend, welcome back to the Wellness Junction Podcast. My name is Jordanna and this is For You. For You is the new segment of the new Wellness Junction Podcast where I share with you soft landings for when life gets tough. I share snippets from my life's experiences, and this is not your average pep talk for this is how I made it and 10 steps you can take to make it too. My goal for sharing these experiences is solidarity, so you can feel less alone when you're going through similar or related experiences. Because we all know it, we do not always need fixes or answers or solutions when we are sharing about a tough time. Sometimes we just need someone to be with us in that moment, in that difficult moment. And that is what I am here to do with you and for you. So thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I am sharing specifically a soft landing for when it is hard to be away from someone you love. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get to it. Early in January this year, I was seated in the shade in our village home in the afternoon. It was that early evening, late afternoon, around 4 p.m., when the sun is shining in this particular way that can just sometimes cause a very somber mood. It is about to set, so it's not very bright, but it has yet to set. So there's just that atmosphere. So I heard one of my nephews crying from across the compound because his mom, my cousin, was leaving to return to work in the city after the very short December holiday. I felt so sad, both for him and his mom, as I heard him cry, because like my nephew, I know that exact feeling of sadness and frustration, that exact time especially, because I also had to say goodbye to my mom so many times around that time, not knowing when I would see her next. I was living with my grandma at the time in the village, and my mom visited occasionally because she had to be away in the city working. My heart also went out to my cousin because, as you can imagine, that's a very hard decision to make, having to leave your child behind, especially as you hear them cry behind you, because you have to go make a living for them and for yourself as well. So recently, in another afternoon, I had that exact feeling because I was just from seeing a friend off who had been around visiting for a while. I came back home and my house just felt empty. My appetite was lost, and I sat down to try and get some work done, mostly just to distract me from what I was feeling. And then I noticed the sun shining through my windows in that exact way, that annoying way it used to all those years ago, when the holidays would be over and it would be time for my mom to go again. Without me, my little 8, 9, 10-year-old heart always just ached so much, as you can imagine. And I never really knew how or where or to whom I could seek comfort. One of my aunts, once when I was crying, of course, as I am watching my parents leave, she told me that if I continued to cry, my parents would not have a safe journey. So absurd. What was I supposed to do with that as an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old? What was I supposed to do with that? So since I couldn't cry, apparently, I just carried all that heartbreak and sadness and the grief of being away from the only person I wanted to be very close to in my heart. I'm in my mid-20s now, and I am processing a lot of my childhood experiences as I seek perspectives that I didn't have back then, hearing my parents' version of the story. I'm just shocked at how much those experiences have shaped me and continue to impact my life today. So I extend myself a lot of compassion when a pretty normal day or vulnerable moments like the ones I mentioned earlier trigger that grief from way back when. That grief somehow still has a way of creeping up on me and eliciting those exact heavy feelings of hopelessness and sadness, frustration and anger and even shame, because I really struggled to understand why my mom would leave me again for the 100th time. And, comments like, you shouldn't cry because your parents wouldn't have a safe journey. They didn't help. Even at 25 years old, I am still struggling so much when these emotions occur. I struggle to hold them within the borders of my heart without them threatening to break past the wall of understanding that I try to put up. And oftentimes, my heart still just breaks and I sit down with myself with the tears. Over time, I am also learning to make room for these difficult emotions more, knowing that first and foremost, they do not have an impact on anyone's journey, praise be. But I also reckon that sadness is fine. I do not have to keep pushing it away or doing away with it or finding explanations as to why I shouldn't feel it. It is a human emotion like any other. And if any one of you has watched Inside Out or Inside Out 2, it's very popular. If you have not heard it, just search Inside Out and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a film about emotions which have been animated in the lives of a young person. So Riley, the character in question, she's a young person, then she goes into teenagehood in Inside Out 2. But so then her emotions are like the stars of the show, as it were. So Joy, her name is just Joy, the emotion Joy, is always trying to take over everything, telling people what they should do. She's like the one in command, and she tries, especially the very best, to keep sadness away from touching anything, from touching any important memory that Riley has, because Joy believes that, and this is specifically from Inside Out 1, Joy believes that sadness is supposed to be, like something at the back burner. But, as the film ends, Joy realizes that sadness really has a role to play in Riley's life, because she realizes that it was sadness that caused some of the most important memories of Riley's life. When she was sad, then her family did come. She was sad from losing a hockey match, because Riley likes to play hockey. When she was sad from losing a hockey match, she sat and she was crying, and her parents really did come around her and give her encouragement. And we are just pointed to several other instances where sadness was the centerpiece and it caused for some special moments. And so that is what I am learning to do in these years. But these moments are also glimmers. They're not just triggers, they're also glimmers, because they're moments of reckoning. They allow me to travel back in time and sit with Jordanna, the 8-9-year-old Jordanna. I offer her my solidarity, and I let her know that she's not here in this moment alone, that it's okay to cry, feel sad, heartbroken, hopeless, confused, frustrated, and even angry. I just imagine myself walking toward her, holding toward her, standing by her side, holding her in my arms as she cries herself to sleep, because she's just a girl and living without her mom is tough. I hope that my presence can be a soft landing for her in these situations, because that particular memory of always just wanting my mom and not ever knowing when I will see her next, and even when we met next, it was never the smooth experience for you were away and now you're here, and so, let's make up for all the lost time. Life was moving at its own pace, and so as I listen to her version of the story, and as I keep remembering my own version of the story and trying to integrate them the best way I can, I go back in those time to those moments to sort of plant a flag there, to remind myself that in the times when I did feel so alone in the world, and when I did not know what to do with such heavy emotions, that maybe I was alone. Maybe I was alone. No offense to everyone who was around my life at that time. I really honestly just have no recollection of feeling like anyone was in my corner as I processed those heavy emotions. Maybe they were, and guys, I am sorry. Yeah, but I just remind myself that it is okay to have felt the way I did, because I felt so much shame from feeling the way I did. I was expected to understand. I was expected to know. I was expected to see my parents live and not be affected in any way. And truly, now that I look back, those were very tough moments. Those were very difficult realities to live with. And I give 9, 10, 8. I give myself so much compassion right now rather than the hard expectation of understanding. Being away from the people we love is hard, especially if there is little communication as to why that has to be the case. Sometimes we are close physically, but so far from each other emotionally. Sometimes there's very little we can do to lessen that distance. Breakups, moving cities or even countries for better work or academic opportunities, relocations, and sometimes even death are reasons why we have to be away from the people we want to be close to. So I am in solidarity with you today. If you're particularly feeling the grief of being far from a loved one, be it a friend, mom or dad, family, a family member, a son or daughter, a wife or husband, girlfriend or boyfriend, or even a different version of you, because life changes and it changes us too. And sometimes we look back on a version of us that we once were. And in as much as we have peace with who we are right now, sometimes we just miss that person that we once were. So this is for you as well. This is also for all the moms, truly, who have to make that difficult choice to be away from their kids as they go to work and make a living for both themselves and the kids. And this is specifically for my mom, who truly did give me her very best those days, even by being away. I didn't know it then. I struggled so much to understand it then. But I do now. A bit more, at least. And even my understanding has not fixed my grief. It still exists. And when it comes, I do my best to let it stay and then to allow it to live at its own convenience. This is also for my grandmother, my kuhu, as we call her, who was my mom for those 8 years of my early childhood when I had to be away from my mom. I am Jordanna. Thank you so much for your time here today. Before I go, I wanted to read to you some feedback that I got on this episode. So before this episode published, I shared it with a friend who asked to be referred to as P. P often gives me feedback on these episodes and just helps me make them better in terms of the content itself and the audio and the editing process. So P says, "Thank you so much for sharing this sentimental piece. I too feel it deep inside me. I too had to deal with the same in my younger days. I too remember the one goodbye I said to mom, and it will be 6+ years before I saw her again. I too live with the painful memories of going. Today it will be termed child neglect. Today it's closely related with our mental wellness. I never thought about it like this because my parents had to do what they had to do to make a living. Yours truly, P." And so P and I caught up much later after he sent me this, and we were just chatting a bit more about this experience of especially having to be away from our parents because they had to be away working. So unfortunately, P later on lost both his parents. And the thing that really did surprise me is he said that it was much more difficult for him to deal with not knowing when he would ever see his parents again than it actually was when he lost them. And so thank you so much, P, for your contribution. If you would like to share your views, your opinions, your own experience, you can DM the Wellness Junction Podcast on Instagram. You can find us at the Wellness Junction Podcast _KE on Instagram. Also, our WhatsApp number is included in the show notes for this episode. So if you're not much of an Instagram person, can send us a voice note via WhatsApp and I will feature your comments on our following episode. Thank you so much for your time here, and I hope that we can continue to share these experiences and form a brotherhood / sisterhood of people who just value being present with others as we walk through our tough situations, because we all know that life can get really tough, especially in the recent past. Life really does get tough. We have amazing moments and we have joy and wonder and beauty and all of those things. And even in the tough times, we can be a soft landing for each other. Just being a people that are not so focused on providing quick fixes and instant solutions to people when they're going through a tough time, but we value just sharing our full undivided presence so that we can be a soft landing for when life gets tough, both for us and for other people. So thank you so much for being here, friend. I truly appreciate you, and I will see you again. We will speak again next week on Tuesday. In the meantime, though, our usual Friday episodes for the Wellness Junction podcast continue. And this Friday, specifically, Friday the 14th of February, is Valentine's. So I wanted to share something that is closely related with the podcast and also with Valentine's. So because on the Wellness Junction podcast, we have conversations about the intersection of mental health and sexual and reproductive health, I know that romantic relationships and that whole landscape is one of the ways where our mental health and our sexual and reproductive health really come together. So I will be specifically sharing from something that I think I don't hear us talk about a lot, and that is the difficulty or the wars of unreciprocated love. I will mostly be sharing gleanings from an experience I had one time with unreciprocated love or unrequited love, and how I felt like it almost would kill me, but also it's one of the things that really did shape my perspective about myself, identity, and about men and about romantic relationships. So please hang around for that one. And so until we next speak, friend, this has been Jordanna. This is for you, and friend, I am for you. Please choose to be for you as well. Till next time, bye.